I'd like to welcome everybody to our webinar today, Reporting in Dynamics 365 Business Central. We're going to be taking kind of a look at some of the different options that you have when it comes to reporting within Microsoft Dynamics 365 BC. You'll notice that we'll reference it as BC on a regular basis just to make life a little bit easier. I'm going to wait for about 30 seconds before we get started because we're still having attendees join the call, and once that 30 seconds wraps up, then we'll get started with a few PowerPoint slides on my end and then jump into some of the different solutions we're going to be looking at. So let's wait 30 seconds and we'll get started. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I think we probably still have some more people that'll be joining us, but they can catch up. And then also, this is going to be recorded as well, so we'll talk about that in a second. But again, welcome to ACE's December webinar on Reporting in Dynamics 365 Business Central. We're going to be taking a look at some of the different options you have out there for your reporting needs. My name is Mark Munson. I'm going to be doing some just quick introductions here, going through a couple of setup slides in PowerPoint, and then turning it over to the important people on the call today that are actually going to be doing the presentations. A couple of housekeeping items. All attendees have been muted. Just based on the number of attendees, we thought this might be the best. So you are muted on your end. If you do have questions, please put them in the chat box. I'll be monitoring the chat box throughout the session. I'll try to respond to those. If it's a question that I need one of the presenters to chime in on as we take little transitional breaks, we'll address those as well. So again, enter any questions in the chat box. The more you can kind of interact, the better. There's going to be a link to the recording that's available. So if you would like to have that as a resource for yourself later on to kind of go back and review, or if there's others in your organization that may have some interest in the topic today, please let us know, and we'll send the link out to you more than likely tomorrow once we get it posted on YouTube. And then lastly, there's a free migration assessment to those people that attend today. We're getting more and more traction on existing GP clients that are looking at and exploring the option of moving to Business Central. And there's an assessment that we can perform, as your partner. So if there's some interest there, let your account manager know, let me know, and we'll happily get that scheduled. All right, so what are we going to be covering today? Well, reporting. In the invitation I mentioned, why do we collect all this data? Data is great, but data is just data. And in the real world, we need to be able to take data and convert it into information, and more importantly, take information and convert it into knowledge, actionable knowledge. And so that's what we're trying to do with some of these reporting tools that are there and available to us. In the past in GP, we used Management Reporter. If you've been around GP a long time, you may have used FRX, or you may have already gone to a third-party solution and are using that for your reporting needs. But within Business Central, you kind of have the same combination of things that are there and available to you. You do have native reporting in BC, which we'll be covering. And then you have the ability to take some of that native reporting and some of that data and put it into Power BI objects and visualizations that are actually embedded in Business Central. And we're going to be showing you that as well. And then for those of you that really have a little bit more complex reporting needs, we're going to be highlighting a solution called Cosmos. And this is a third-party Excel-based solution that provides for not just your financial reporting needs, but all your operational reporting needs as well. So it's a really, really nice tool. We recommend it highly. As a matter of fact, it's our solution of choice. I will tell you that at the end of today's call, you will look at this and say, gee, one or some combination of these solutions is what I need in order for me to provide the type of reporting for myself and or senior level executive management within my organization. So before we get started, I wanted to just ask a couple questions. Are you currently using Management Reporter? And if not, what third-party tool are you currently using? And if you can just kind of type something in the chat box so that I can see. So the question is, are you currently using Management Reporter? Some of you may still be using FRX. It's highly unlikely, but that's a possibility. So are you currently using Management Reporter? If not, what third-party tool are you using? And if, you know, and most importantly, do these tools really support your reporting needs? All right, just enter in the chat box if you would. All right, perfect. Perfect. That just gives us some sense of the audience today. So I certainly appreciate you guys doing that. All right, so with that said, let me make some quick introductions. Presenting today from ACE is Chris Zeiler. He's our Director of Cloud Solutions, 20 plus years in the industry. Chris has a strong background in Dynamics GP, came up through the GP ranks, did a lot with FRX, did a lot with MR. For the last 4 or 5 years, he's really just moved into the Dynamics 365 Business Central space, knows that solution very well as some of the reporting add-on solutions like Jet and Cosmos that are there and available. After Chris is done, then we're going to turn it over to Anthony Bonaducci. He's the Chief Revenue Officer for Cosmos, at least 15 some odd years in the industry. And he is a reporting guru. He's been living in this space for a long, long time. Came up through the GP World Management Reporter, spent some time with Jet Reports and with a partner like ACE, and is one of the founders of Cosmos. So we're excited about having Anthony on board to kind of highlight his solution, a solution that we, again, feel very, very strongly about. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Chris. Chris, let me give you presentation capabilities and let you go. Give me 1 second. All right. Here.
While Mark's doing that, thank you, everybody. I know the holidays are right around the corner. We appreciate you being here with us. There we go. Let me make sure I get my... All right. Okay. Mark, can you just confirm that you see Business Central for me real quick?
I do.
Okay. All right, so as Mark said, I'm going to take you through a few of the native reporting options. We're going to take a quick look at financial reports, which are really Business Central's answer to Management Reporter and FRX, and I'll help you guys kind of draw some parallels between those two solutions. We'll take a look at some of the native reporting, which, you know, in the GP world, we kind of call this report writer. So we'll take a look at a report options page and see some capabilities that are there. And then we'll round out my end looking at Power BI, embedded Power BI, and looking at what you guys can do with Power BI in the future and how easily it is to integrate, not only with Business Central, but with several other solutions as well. So hopefully all of you were on my webinar a couple of weeks ago, BC for the GP user. We're back on our Role Center homepage. Right now I have a salesperson or a regional manager role page, which is why you see kind of contacts, opportunities, sales, and so forth. But the first thing that we're going to look at is what Business Central calls financial reports. And financial reports really are the embedded financials inside Business Central. You know, in the GP world, we don't really have a true income statement balance sheet inside GP. We utilize Management Reporter, or if you're a 10, 12-year veteran of GP, back to the FRX days. So what I'm looking at right here when I click on financial reports, in the Management Reporter world, this is really your report catalog. So you can see I have a number of these different financial reports. And what's nice is it kind of follows the same sort of vocabulary and structure as Management Reporter. So I have a demo income statement over here on the left that you can see. But if you look over here on the right, you can see some familiar terms. This report has a row definition that's associated with it, and then it also has a column definition that's associated with it. You know, very similar to Management Reporter and FRX. One thing that is very different, though, is that I can preview this from inside the ERP system. So if I want to look at this demo income statement, I can click on it. I've got some runtime options up here along the top, such as my date filters and then my dimensional filters. If you guys remember back to our previous webinar, those dimensional filters are really like my segments in my general ledger. And then down here at the bottom, I have kind of a basic inquiry of this row format, or this financial report that I've created. And this is very similar to the account summary inquiry inside GP, if you could only configure the account summary to show your income statement. So if you take a look at this, I've got a kind of top to bottom income statement. I've got my income, my cost of sales, then I got my gross profit, and then some G&A down here on the bottom. And then I have the columns that I have specified for my report as well. So I have, you know, a net change for my reporting period. I have a net change for prior year. I have a variance calculated, and then I've got some year-to-date, exactly the same fields over here to the right. So I can really quickly change my my filters for my dates. Let's say I want to look at P3, and I just sort of shorthanded my date filter to P3 instead of entering in this date syntax. And obviously my report area down here changes. Now, one of the main benefits of this inquiry is I can drill in to see more information directly from here. So if I click on my net change here of $13,236 in revenue, it's first going to take me into what accounts make up that balance. And it looks like it's all this 4100 account. I can then drill in further to see the general ledger entries that are included in that total. And just like on the GP side, when I'm looking at my journal entries at the line level, I also have those master record references. I can see what customer this invoice came from, what invoice number this came from, and I could obviously drill back even further, which I showed you on the previous. So really cool way to just sort of preview on the screen as well. And then if I have any sort of filters that I want to do at a department level, I could apply those filters. Maybe I want to look at just my sales department, right? I could very quickly apply that filter. And then of course my values are going to change and I can drill into that. If I have GL budget filters, I could also select a specific GL budget. Maybe I have a GL budget column in my report. Okay. I can print these reports out from here in a very basic format. I also have the ability to export these reports out to Excel if I want to pretty them up or add some graphical elements or so forth to it. Okay, so I have a lot of options in here, and I'm not having to go into, you know, open up Management Reporter or open up FRX in order to run these. And all of the security, as I mentioned in my previous demo, is all controlled within your Office 365 account, single sign-on, and so forth. All right, so I'm going to drill back here really quick, and I want to show you just some of the nuts and bolts of this report. You've kind of seen it from an output perspective, but let's go ahead and edit the row definition, and I want to show you just how similar this is to editing a row format inside Management Reporter. Same sort of concepts. I have a row number over here on the left. I can set up my own custom descriptions and indent descriptions. And then I have my link back to the GL. So what master GL accounts are going to be included in this row when the report runs? Okay, so a lot of this stuff should look familiar to anybody that's done a report in Management Reporter or in FRX. Okay, show opposite sign. This is like print as credit, print as debit. You know, it'll just flip from a positive to a negative based on what type of account you're using. And then the other thing that everybody's used to doing is putting in those formulas, right? I'm summing my entire income statement on row number F0009 here, okay? The row numbers are a little bit different. They're not so much sequential. I mean, they can be if you want to. Those are user defined. In this one, they're not so much. They're using Fs as a prefix for footers to easily call lower on the report. Okay, so from a design perspective, very similar to Management Reporter or FRX. Likewise, on the column format, I've got this column definition of demo over here. I can edit that column definition. If you remember back to where I started with the with my output, I had several columns, 6. I had a net change prior year, and then a variance formula. So very similar to Management Reporter here. I specify my column numbers. I specify my headers. I've got some parameters and so forth around what's going to be displayed in those columns. If I change dates in the columns, I can put those date formulas in here. These are obviously prior year comparisons, so I'm doing a -1 year here on these columns. And then I've got some formulas here on which columns to evaluate. So all very, very similar to the Management Reporter experience. If I click on my entries here, here's where I would specify a column as a budget entry column and not a physical general journal column. So all in all, very, very similar to Management Reporter and so forth. Now, you'll notice that there is no area for trees here. Typically in Business Central, financial reports are used for very flat financials and basic financials. You saw all the tools that we have available to us on the row format and the column format, and you can do a lot of design by doing that. And one thing that I didn't call out that I want to go back and apologize for this is I showed you how you could link an account over here in this totaling area of the row format, but you can also bring in the department codes and maybe a profit center code or any other segments that you have specified as dimensions inside Business Central. But you'll notice that the setup of it is relatively flat in terms of if you wanted to do something where you had embedded departments or so forth, something like you would do with a tree, you know, you could get into some, this may be extremely hard to maintain over a period of time. And that's really where Anthony's going to come in with the Cosmos solution and show you some more automated ways of handling that. You know, if you've got certain report requirements such as sheet per value, or you have complex trees, and there's a list of others as well that Anthony may go over on his portion. But really, account schedules are very flat, very simple, and Cosmos is where you're going to have the ability to create those additional relationships and sheet per values and a lot of other things as well. Okay, so I just jumped into really quick a demo income statement, but obviously this would fit the bill. This design concept would fit the bill for balance sheets, income statements, cash flows, and then any sort of you know, a GL-based reporting that you need in the system. All right, Mark, do we have any questions on financial reports there so far before I go into report writer reports?
Nope, we're all good. And interestingly enough, everybody on the line is currently MR users. So
okay, I'll stop saying FRX then.
Yeah, FRX. Well, you know, it's a golden oldie. You never know, right? Right.
Okay. Again, if you do have any questions at all, please go ahead and put them in, and Mark will stop me, or Mark will answer them in the chat. You know, I want to make sure we get everything addressed here. So that is financial reports, very basic crash course overview. Now I'm going to show you just the basic reports that are inside Business Central, and these would be very similar to, in the GP world, report writer reports or report options. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my search here, and I'm going to look for my aged accounts receivable. Since we're playing the salesperson role here on my Role Center homepage, I'm going to open up a aged accounts receivable report. And when I open that up, this is basically my report options window that's going to open for any report that I run outside of Business Central. And this is very similar to the report options window that you see inside GP. So if you look at this, I have some basic options that are inherent to the specific report that you're running. So this is an aging report. So I'm aging as of a specific day. I'm aging based off of a specific date on the transactions. And then I'm defining how many aging periods or what the length of my aging period is for this report. And then down below, I'm going to have all of my filtering options that are tied into the report. This is a customer-based report. So I've got some filters that are down here that are customer-based. I've got 4 that are there by default, but then I can go ahead and click this filter button and I can see all of my available fields that are related to the customer, and I can bring those into the filter context of the report if I want to. Okay, so I have a lot of flexibility in terms of how I filter down my reports and so forth.
Chris, we had one question about, sorry to interrupt, we had one question about forecasting. Are you able to build forecasts within this?
You can. So you have the budgeting capabilities just like you do in GP. So you can create budget IDs versus forecast IDs. You can master those in Excel with an import template that gets generated from BC. And then you can, modify those details inside Excel and import those back into Business Central.
Perfect.
I imagine that person was speaking of a financial forecast.
That was my understanding, yes. But
okay.
If that's not, please type it back please clarify in the question section.
Okay. One thing that's really nice about Business Central too is you have the ability to send reports to Excel as opposed to always having to consume them in the report writer or PDF or sending them out to text. So this report specifically has a print to Excel option right here. So I'm going to print in detail and I'm going to choose the option to print in Excel. So when I click print here, it's going to do 2 things. It's going to give me a physical report, and then it's also going to take the details of that report and dump it into a nice formatted Excel sheet for me. So you can see I've got, I'm using Excel in the web here. This is a demo environment, so it took a minute to open it up in another tab in my browser. But here is all of my aged accounts receivable detail. I chose to show detail, so I'm showing invoices. I've got my customer number, customer name over here, and then those buckets that I specified on 30 days from transaction date. Okay, so a lot of different options there in terms of exporting out to Excel or analyzing specific reports in Excel. And if I just close that tab that opened with Excel, here is my physical formatted report, which is something that you would see more, traditionally out of GP. Here's my formatted age accounts receivable that has my groupings for customers and so forth. Now, for those technical people in the room with these reports, you may know from a GP perspective, you can have one modified version of every report that gets assigned to users via security. So if you want to make changes to a specific report inside GP, you get kind of a canned version unchanged, and then you get one modified version. Well, in Business Central, you have custom report layouts for every report, and you can have as many as you want. So you can have several different versions of a specific report. Different variations that show different columns. It's a very different reporting change between the two systems. Okay, I'm gonna, running reports is very basic, but I want to show you one more thing. If I go back to that report and I go into aged accounts receivable here, I can send this report to a schedule if I want to. Let's say this is a large report that may take 5, 10, 15 minutes to run, and I'd like to have it ready for me every single day when I come in. Maybe it's an open inventory report, could be anything. I have the ability to schedule these reports, and when those reports get scheduled, I can set up some context in terms of when I want them run and available using these parameters down here. And then I can say, keep running it every single day until a specific expiration date. So I called this out a little bit in my last demo, but when I set up a report to run on a schedule like this, then on my my Roll Center homepage, at the very bottom, I have this report inbox. And this report inbox is basically where all those run reports are going to be waiting for me. So if I set up a report to run, you know, at 8 o'clock in the morning and I come in at 8:30, when I open up Business Central for the first time, I'm going to see that report right here in my inbox and I can access it. Don't need to run it. It's been scheduled and run for me. All right, so that's very big, very quick crash course, financial reports, very quick crash course on the canned reports inside Business Central. The last thing that I want to show you is Power BI, which I think a lot of people have seen it, but really in terms of Business Central, Power BI gives you some hookends so that you can actually show Power BI visuals inside Business Central. Now, Power BI really deserves a session all on its own. There are just a ton of things that you can do with Power BI. It's an extremely powerful report. Under the context of this video, I'm really only going to go over a few things. But in my last video, I did show you that under Insights down here, I had some visuals that were on the screen. So we're in a salesperson role here. So I've got opportunities are really where I live as a salesperson. So I've got some visuals here that show me a pipeline by sales stage for those opportunities. These are my different sales stages. I've got the salespeople that are in my region. I've got total opportunities by salesperson over here. And then I've got some other visuals as well. And what Power BI allows you to do is to show those visuals inside Business Central. So I'm looking at another visual right here that shows me total quantities sold and giving me my top 5 items based on total quantities sold here. And this can actually be on many Power BI dashboards within the organization, but we've chosen to show this one widget or this one visual inside Business Central on my Roll Center homepage. Now, what's nice is, you know, real estate is at a premium inside Business Central in terms of the screen, but this is hooked into Power BI. So what I can do is I can expand out this report, and this report actually has this small visual that we just saw inside Business Central, but now you see more items on this, and I actually have more context to this report inside Business Central that I've built. So now I can see the full item sales dashboard here, which is showing me top 10 items sold by quantity, and then I'm showing the top 5 customers that purchased those quantities as well. So like I said, Power BI it shows visual representations of data using these visuals, and then there's always filters that are applied to the report, and it's within those filters that you get all of the functionality. Okay, so if I'm looking at this report, I've got a basic date filter that's embedded in the report, but then I'm also showing items and I'm showing customers. And what's nice about Power BI is it's interactive. So I can quickly add a filter to this report. Maybe I want to see tray research. When I click on tray research down here, which is a customer, all the other visuals inside the Power BI dashboard now inherit that filter context of tray research. So now when I look at these conference bundles, which is my item, and how much were sold, when I hover over that, I can see a total of 81 were sold, but 26 of them were to tray research, and that's represented by this darker line over the total. Okay, so it's always, you know, the name of the game in Power BI is filter context. How do I add filters to my report to get at the information I need? If I wanted to see that with A Datum Corporation, notice that all of my values change. Now I'm seeing just A Datum's contribution to those quantities sold up here. So these Power BI visuals, these dashboards that we deploy have several elements to them, and the filter context is really the key at slicing and dicing and analyzing the data that you want. But it is also a great aggregation tool. If you have data from multiple systems that you want to pull together and report on simultaneously, Power BI has a great ETL capability in order to do that. And I'll give you a quick example. Let's say you've got a marketing system, you're running some campaigns out of a CRM, and you want to look at what your web statistics are doing based on those different marketing activities. So you're going to pull your campaign information out of your CRM system, but then you're going to pull your web statistics out of your web hosting software to see how many hits are you getting per day. Well, when you mash up that data together, and now you can tell a story with the data in a tool like Power BI like this. So I don't want to take too much from Anthony's time and Cosmos, so I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Are there any questions, Mark, from a reporting perspective?
We've handled all the questions at this point, but Chris, thank you very much.
Okay.
Again, I know this is high level just based on the time constraints that we're working with. So again, if there's more information needed, certainly reach out to your ACE account manager or myself, and we'll happily dive into this this information on a one-on-one basis. So Chris, again, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Anthony Bonaduce with Cosmos. Anthony, let me make you presenter real quick, and you can move forward.
Awesome, thanks so much. Yeah, I'll wait for that button. There it is. Let me make sure I've got the right screen up. Okay, perfect. So are we seeing the Cosmos portal coming through here?
Yes, we are.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and Chris, that was an awesome overview of a lot of the native functionality. And just to reiterate for everyone on the call, we're going to pivot a bit and look at a third-party solution that's very popular for Business Central, which is called Cosmos. And so as Mark mentioned at the start of the presentation, my name's Anthony Bonaduce. I'm one of the founders here, and I'm really excited to take you through this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in here into our Cosmos portal. And Cosmos, fundamentally, what it is it's reporting, analytics, and data management solution that is fully cloud-based and again built specifically for Microsoft. And so a couple things I'd mention on that. I've worked with many GP folks, literally hundreds of GP folks over the years, helping them with their due diligence around reporting and analytics and data management. And this is a bit of a mind shift typically for folks that come from the GP background, because in GP, you're used to juggling so many different tools, right? You've got Management Reporter, FRX for financials, then you have some native ERP reports you run, and then maybe you use Smart List Builder, and then maybe there's certain reports where you just dump out data and then you massage that manually, and maybe you're using Power BI for dashboards, right? This is truly a Swiss Army knife. So this is all of those things, all of that functionality in one product. And that's one of the reasons that folks that do move to Business Central from GP typically like this solution, because it's a one-stop shop, as Chris mentioned. And so what we're seeing here, you'll notice when I logged in, it took me into this admin section. That's because I'm an admin. But where most users are going to come in within Cosmos is right here to the reporting section. And as you can see, I've got dozens of reports here available in my portal that I can start running and interacting with, moving to the next period or the next dates, or looking at a different salesperson. And as I mentioned, this is not just financials. You can see that we span any sort of data you want to report on. So whether these are financial statements or sales reports or AP reports or AR, whatever, if you have data in your ERP, Cosmos can access that data and you can build reports off it. Now, one of the nice things is many of these reports you see are just out of the box. And so we have a gallery from within the product. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to get up and running on this. And then you can just start bringing in all these different reports and things like that and just start running it against your data. And so I'll show what that experience looks like. We've all seen refreshable reports, but just so you can see it in Cosmos, maybe I want to run this, income statement by company or something like that. I can click this little run button, and over here on the right, a little task pops up. And so I can mouse over that, or I can just come over here and pin it. I typically pin it while I'm working with it. And then you'll see we have a filter or a wealth of filters available that my users can then interact with. So we can come in here. In this case, I'm just running it for June 2022, whatever I want to run it for. But I'll click that run button, and you'll see that the report is going to trigger off here. It's already finished. It's being backed up here, being via some Microsoft technology. We open this up, and we have a nice clean income statement by company in this case, with consolidated totals on the right. As I believe Mark mentioned, a lot of what we do is inside of Excel. That's by design, because it's friendly, it's familiar, it's the most widely used business application in the world. And so we can come in here, see our stuff inside of Excel. If we want to do calculations or add notes, things like that, that's at our disposal. And I'll show you how to build some of this here in a second. But again, should look friendly, should look familiar. And if we close out of this, we're right back to our Cosmos portal. So couple other things I'll mention just because Chris talked about, security, things like that. There's user level security on all of these reports, right? So when we build these out, say I built this report, I can share it with Brian and Aaliyah, and then when Brian and Aaliyah log in, they're going to see this report tile. If it's not shared with them, they don't have any access. It doesn't even show up in their portal, right? So there's security around that. And one of the things that people also like about a tool like this is the ability to kind of facilitate month end, archive your final month end reports or year end reports when you're closing the books. And so we've built in this native archiving here, which is really nice because all of those recent runs, like that's the income statement I just ran on our demo here. All your recent runs will sit here for 24 hours. But let's say that we're done. The books are closed, everything looks good, and we want to archive this. We can come in here and say, this is our income statement for, June 22, and we can archive that permanently. And what that will do is that will live here in my archived runs. So anytime I need to reference this, if there's an audit, whatever, I could come pull the last 6 months of these statements. I can also share these archived runs. So maybe I'm our VP of Finance and I run this, everything's good, we close the books, and I want to just drop this into my CFO's portal so that she can access it. I can do that directly here via the archived run section. So it kind of facilitates a lot of those manual processes you probably are used to or have seen people do, where we run our statements, we dump them all into Excel, we massage them, consolidate them, bless them, and then we have to save them or email them out or share them with different folks. You can just access those directly from this portal. And that's, part of this whole one-stop shop concept, right? Everything you need for reporting, everything you need for, analytics, dashboards, it's all here in this portal. And so that's the archiving piece. But we've seen how to run reports. I'll show you how to build something. And I'm going to veer a little bit because obviously core financials is a no-brainer in a tool like this. We know every single one of our customers needs financials. So I'm going to show more of an operational report so you can see, how we can get to all different kinds of data and the types of reports we can build outside of financials. And so I'm going to create a report that's a monthly sales by salesperson just to give you a flavor, and you'll see how we put this all together. And as I believe Chris mentioned, all of this is going to be done here in Excel when it comes to this style of reports. I'll talk about our Power BI integration here in a minute. But we can see here we're in Excel, and I'm using Excel Online. You can use Excel Desktop if that's your preference, being that this is cloud. I like to typically use the cloud version of Excel just to demonstrate this sort of soup to nuts. But I'll come in here and I'll just give myself a little bit of information. So, oh my gosh, if I could type today. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. If I could type today, so we'll do name, city, state, the country, and maybe sales, something like that. So we'll come through here and just kind of lay out our format. Again, I can clean this up, do any sort of Excel razzle dazzle I want to do, but for time's sake, I'll just do a little bit of formatting here. All right, that looks good. So we'll just kind of organize this. And one of the important things about this as you're looking at this is that this tool, everything we do, is designed for business users. It's not designed for technical folks. It's not designed for IT. Obviously, those folks can use this, but we don't want to create another bottleneck in the organization by setting you up on a third-party tool. That doesn't do you any justice, right? So you'll see as I build this out, it's very simple, it's streamlined, and that's all by design. As Chris mentioned, I've been doing this for 15 years. All of those experiences and feedback from working with customers is what really shaped this product and how we go about it. And so what you see here on the right-hand side is the Cosmos Report Editor. And if you haven't seen this style of Excel add-in, this is called the Modern Office Excel add-in. So this slider, you're going to start seeing more of these and less of the ribbons. The reason for that is this is all cross-platform. So this works on Excel for Mac, your tablets, your smartphones, Excel for Windows, obviously. But a lot of other solutions that have Excel add-ins, they don't work on Macs because that style of ribbon is not cross-platform. And so if we come in here, we're going to walk through 4 simple steps to create a really complex report, actually, in just a few seconds. I can build this example in about a minute if I'm not walking folks through it. And so if I come in here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set our filters or our report options. So again, these are those things that are going to pop up when we hit that run button that our users can interact with, toggle between dates, salespeople, items, whatever it is you want. You can filter on anything. But I'm going to come in here and just use the search capability to search this nice, clean reporting data model. Think of this as sort of like a data mart in tools you're familiar with already, but to come in here and say, I want to bring in year as a filter, and I can just throw in a random default value. I'll pick 2020. That's all you need to do. You can set as many filters as you want. If I was to preview and run the report right now to see what it would look like, you can see my filter is there ready to go, and I could just run the preview. But we'll just keep plowing here. So we've set a filter. We could do, like I said, multiple if we want. We've got a filter on year. I've also got a second step here, which is report sheets. And this is optional. So I can come in here and say, let's add a sheet for each salesperson. Maybe I want to run the report one time and have a separate report for each of my salespeople. I can come in here, I'll come to my sales transactions, and I'll just say, give me a sheet for each salesperson code. That's all I need to do. When this runs now, it's going to create a separate sheet. I can do sorting around all this. Obviously, it's super flexible. So I could say put salesperson code in ascending order, and I could say, limit it to my top 5 salespeople, whatever it is I want to do. But for example's sake, I'll just leave it as is. And one of the things that's very unique, we can do multiple levels on the sheets, or parent-child relationships, right? So we could have consolidated financials and then individual financials by department or by company or whatever it is. So if you want multiple levels, you can use those child sheets. But again, for time's sake, we'll leave it as is with one level. And then we're going to use what's called range lists and fields. And range lists are just as they sound. It's a way we can control within the workbook here how we want stuff listed out, what direction, and so on and so forth. And so I'm going to say add a range list where we want to start with our customer numbers. I'll go to sales transactions, and I'm going to pick bill to customer. I could use sell to as well, but for example's sake, we'll use bill to. And what Cosmos inferred on its own is that there's going to be a range from A5 to F5, and it's going to copy down in rows because that's the shape we grabbed, right? We can always toggle that, but 99% of the time it's going to be right, and it's one less thing users have to think about. Maybe we want to have 12 months of data coming out for that year. So let's add a range list here where we look for months. And we'll come in here and say, let's get the months in the year. And once again, Cosmos kind of sorted this out on its own. It assumes we want lists for months going in columns. And so by adding these 2 range lists, we now have a nice intersection of data that copies down and data that's going to go out in my workbook. Finally, we'll add the fields to round this all out. So we'll add a field function here where we say, let's go to a different table, right? We've all dealt with reports where we have to link tables and fields. Cosmos has nice auto linking, which I'll show you in a second, but we're going to use the customer table instead of our sales transactions, where we can come in and say, bring in the customer name. And we'll see our standard kind of ways to bring in information in these fields. Are we summing up values or counting how many invoices we had, etc.? But in this case, we want to use what's called a lookup because we're trying to look up the name of this customer number. And when we bring that in, we see that we have this auto linking interface that pops up. So it says, you're asking for a customer name from one table, but in the other table, there's 2 different customer types. Which one do you want the name of? Link on these customers, right? And we're going to say in this case, we want bill to. So when I click accept, it's going to jump to the next cell because as users, we're just rinsing and repeating this process, right? So we want that, we want state, we want the country they're located in. And then when we get to our months, we actually want, as I mentioned, 12 months of sales information. So we're going to come back to sales transactions, and we're just going to say, take our sales and sum those up. And just like that, we have our report. Now, this is where you can bring in any sort of Excel functionality you want to use, bring in your formulas and calculations or formatting, anything like that. I won't spend a ton of time on this just for everyone's sake of time here, but I will just clean it up just a bit. And the nice part about authoring all this in Excel Online is everything's been saving as I go. So I can close out of here. And you'll see I have this, report in my workspace that is now finished and ready for production. I can drop an image on here. I can use the file browser, take a screenshot of the report, whatever I want to do. But so you can see there's no smoke and mirrors. All of these have an image. Let's check this in. That's going to move down into production here. We see we now have this blank report. I can set my security as we talked about, share this out with users. And now you get to see some of the magic. So one of the things that people really like about Cosmos is it's extremely fast, lightning fast, in fact. And so watch what happens when I hit run on this report. We're going to see that it's actually created 7 or 8 reports automatically, and it's running essentially an 8-page or 7 or 8 separate reports all at once, and they're all running concurrently. They don't tie up your Excel instance. So if you're working in Excel, you can continue to do that. A lot of Excel-based reporting tools run in Excel, so they occupy Excel while they run. Cosmos does not do that, but we can see now we can open up our nice clean report, and we have our monthly sales by salesperson. We have a sheet for every salesperson that got created automatically. We have their specific customers, customer information, 12 months of sales data, and it's all broken out nice and clean. We can just sort through this. I could split these out, send them to my salespeople. I could, do one-on-ones, review with each person and just flip to the next sheet, or I can just have that nice, view that I want. Again, I could have used the parent-child to have consolidated sales and then individual sales breakdowns, but this is just how I approached it. So that's the design interface and kind of working with Excel style reports. I want to pivot a bit, and I want to talk about the Power BI integration because, as I mentioned, this is a Swiss Army knife. You're not going to have to juggle multiple different tools if you use this. But one of the things we do, since we're tightly integrated with Microsoft, is we leverage Power BI as well for our data visualization. And you'll see we have a reports section, we have a Power BI section. If I click on Power BI, you saw it hung up for just a minute because we're actually logged in with your Microsoft credentials. And when we click on this Power BI button, what it does, it goes to powerbi.com, where all of your Power BI dashboards and reports live. And it says, show all of the ones that Anthony, in this case, has access to right here inside of Cosmos. Now, the beauty of this is if I open up like this, say just executive sales dashboard, right, or a financial report or whatever it is, it's inside Cosmos. I'm not being taken off to another tool. Users don't have to have 10 more tabs to access other tools. And all of this, as Chris showed, is interactive, right? So slice and dice, drill into this stuff, see what happens when you interact with the data. And as I believe Chris or Mark said, tell a story with the data, right? And so that's what this allows you to do. Now, all of this is being fed from your Cosmos data model, from that Cosmos Data Mart or reporting database. I understand there's subtle differences there, but all of this is being fed from your Cosmos data, which means whether you're building Excel reports or you're building Power BI reports, you don't have to worry about user error with the data itself. If you look at December 2021, it's going to be the same numbers in Excel as it is in Power BI. It's that one version of the truth concept. So we see we have this nice clean dashboard. I can use any of the cool, Power BI natural language Q&A if I wanted to say show sales by year, right? I can see sales by year. So if my boss asked me in a meeting, well, yeah, great, sales are 52 million. What were they last year, right? I can say, well, let me pull that up real quick versus, well, I'll need to go run a report or build a report. Let me get back to you, right? So that's Power BI inside of Cosmos. Now, any of these Power BI fueled reports and dashboards, or I say Cosmos fueled reports and dashboards that are built in Power BI, as Chris showed, these can live here and be embedded into Business Central or Microsoft Teams or D365 Sales, CRM, right? Any of those Microsoft apps can still use these. The last thing I'll show you is the ease of use in building this stuff, which I'm just gonna drag this onto my other screen in just a second here, inside Power BI, because what we've done, in 2 clicks, you can hook up Power BI directly to your nice, clean, ready to use Cosmos data. And then all you have to do as a user is come in here and just bring in what you want to see. I'm just being consistent in using sales. I could be using inventory, finance, anything, right? But all you have to do is just drag sales. I want to see that by salesperson. Okay, great. There's sales by salesperson. I want to see it on this visual. Fantastic. And I want to see sales by our different item category descriptions. So there's our sales by item category description. And I want to see, where we're selling this stuff. So I want to bring in the state the customer's located. I want to bring in, what we're selling to those customers. See that on the map here. I can drill into any of this. Let's just look at Antone's customers, right? We see that here's his largest customer in Illinois, right? So it gives you the ability to just immediately start using Power BI in about 15 minutes. If you've tried Power BI in the past, you probably know it's a fantastic product, but it can take a bit of time to hook up to, say, Business Central data directly and then try and organize and deal with all the actual, denormalization, as we say, of the data. So once this is done, I just want to show you this. Again, I'm big on no smoke and mirrors. Maybe I spend an extra 2 minutes. I had some slicers, I had a title, but you'll see in my Cosmos area here, there is no salesperson performance dashboard. That's what this is called. I'll publish this up. We'll save it. It's going to go up to powerbi.com. We'll drop it into one of our workspaces. Think of those as just kind of subject matter oriented, storage spaces. So you have a sales workspace, finance workspace, etc. But we'll see that this is going to publish up. All right, we'll get our green means go. And now if I flip back to Cosmos, I navigate away or I refresh, lo and behold, there's our salesperson performance dashboard. And we can open this up from within our single source of information for our business inside of Cosmos. There's the dashboard page. There's the little visuals we threw together moments ago. And again, it's all interactive. So that's pretty high level stuff. I won't talk about the data management aspect, but one of the things that's nice is Cosmos ships with a pre-built data model. So you have, sales, finance, inventory, GL, AP, AR, purchasing, all that fun stuff out of the box, up and running, and again, in about 15 to 20 minutes. So all of your Business Central data sort of boiled down with only the stuff you're going to use for reporting. We do have access to any table, field, ISV tables, views, things like that, any extensions, right? But you can see you're never going to report out of most of the tables in your ERP. So we just bring in the stuff you need for reporting. We can bring in any custom tables or fields, and what you get left with is a nice, clean data model that users can, quickly and easily access without being database experts. So last thing I'll mention, we can hook up to historical information, things like that. If you had, you want to start with some summary detail from your GP instance and then immediately start flowing with data from Business Central. Cosmos allows you to consolidate data, via a reporting database or a data warehouse, however you want to think about that. But it's very simple to do that. And so it kind of gives you the ability to address the data, the reporting, the dashboards and analytics, all in one product, any type of information. So I think I'm right around 20 minutes, Chris. I want to, pass it back, or I'm sorry, Mark, I want to pass it back over to you if there's any questions or anything else we need to touch on.
All right, perfect. Well, Anthony, as usual, great job. Certainly appreciate you taking the time to walk us through that. A lot of information there. I want to make a couple comments, but I want to see if I can secure some feedback from the attendees today. So do me a favor, type in the question section what your thoughts were, what you just saw. Love to get some feedback. It's really hard when you're doing these presentations and everybody's muted and you can't really, you don't see people's faces, you don't hear comments. So any comments you can provide. Okay, we got loved it from Richard. Very, very nice. So keep giving me some feedback if you would. I will tell you personally, I like this tool. I mean, I think it's really sharp. We saw a lot of these Excel-based reporting tools enter the market when FRX was being retired and MR was kind of taking over. It created an opportunity for people to say, I'm going to stay FRX to MR, or I'm going to do something else. And so there was a lot of different Excel tools introduced into the market space. And so you'll see a lot of them out there. But what we like about Cosmos and what we think is special about Cosmos, actually a couple of things. One, it's truly that all-in-one reporting suite, okay? So if you're looking to have, under one roof, a full suite of capabilities when it comes to reporting in BC, Excel-based reporting, Power BI, data visualizations, Cosmos brings that all to bear, which is unique. And then two, and I don't think Anthony gives us as much credit as he normally does and knows, one of the criticisms we had on early Excel-based reporting tools was they were just slow. Once your data got to a certain point, running reports was just sometimes painful. And to his point, and he uses a term, I think it's crazy fast, lightning fast, I think is what you use.
Yeah, lightning fast, yep.
Lightning fast. And when you see it running, and it's running multiple reports all at the same time, and it's just blazing speed. I can't remember, it's like 70 to 1 or 80 to 1 as compared to some of the other tools out there, Anthony?
Yeah, when we did our benchmarking, it was about 48 times faster on an average report. So we'd see a report take 36 minutes in a different Excel-based reporting tool, and it would take 6 seconds in Cosmos, right? And these are big reports. And to Mark's point, I mean, everything you saw today is real. It's hooked up to Business Central. There's about 3 million transactions in this BC tenant, so it's definitely real.
Yeah, that's again what we love about it. So for our clients who've got simple reporting needs, there's simple reporting solutions out there. For more complex and sophisticated needs, Cosmos is kind of the way to go. So again, Anthony, great job. Thank you so much. Let me move on and try to get this in presentation mode again. Let me just switch my displays here. All right, so just to kind of wrap up, again, thank you everybody for attending today. This is part of an ongoing series of educational webinars that we're hosting for mostly GP clients that are contemplating a move to Business Central. This was the third session of 6. So if you missed any of the prior sessions, we do have them out there. Whoops, did not mean to do that. So let me go back. We did. So these sessions are available on recording. If you want those sessions, contact me. I'll send links to the recordings out. The recording of today's session will probably be available tomorrow on YouTube. Once that posts, we'll get that out to the people that requested it. Come January, we're going to be talking about moving to BC. What about my data? So you'll see invitations to that event in the January timeframe. For those of you that are running payroll and HR in GP, what are the possibilities in Business Central? We'll be discussing that in February. And then in March, we're going to focus in on workflow and a lot of the native capabilities that surround Business Central, much more than what we have available to us in GP. So we hope you guys can make it to one, if not all of those sessions. And again, just let me know if you would like recordings from prior sessions. Final thoughts on my side. Again, discuss and plan now. Making these changes in some situations is just not, it's not an easy task. It can be done, but it requires some thought and some planning. So start looking at your data now. Start thinking about your chart of accounts and how it currently exists, and what would it be like to be able to re-envision that chart of accounts. So look at these things, discuss them internally. Let us help you evaluate what your options are and what makes the most sense. There's plenty of reporting options out there, and ACE will help you find the right combination that makes sense for you. So again, start having these conversations. Make it a New Year's resolution. Now's a good time. So those are the thoughts that we have for today. Again, I thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, again, reach out to me, reach out to your account manager here at ACE. But we certainly do appreciate the time. And if we don't talk in the meantime, I will wish everybody the greatest of holiday seasons. Be safe, have fun with the family, and enjoy. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care.